Good morning. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for all the support. We greatly appreciate all the donations that we've been receiving. 10% of the donations are going towards making more masks. All the masks are being distributed between the East and the West Coast. So today's class will be using a wall. And the wall is a great way to help support your body in space, to adjust the body, give you better alignment. So you don't necessarily have to have a full wall. So if you don't have a wall, you could use the border of a doorway. Just something to support the hips. And by supporting the hips, you'll be able to adjust the spine better. So a couple other announcements is I have a new class on Zoom. And that class is Sundays from 10 to 11. And the class format is so that I can see you better, so I can give you feedback. To register for that class, it's on my website. It's jonwittyoga.com. And by registering, you just go on to Zoom at the time of the class, and then we'll be able to see one another. So if you're interested in masks personally, you can buy the masks as well on our website. So they're great masks, very protective, and really comfortable. So it's something that if you're not liking the surgical masks, it's much easier to wear, I find. So in starting the class, we'll be seated. So I'm gonna do some things in terms of adjusting the hips. So you could sit as I am, cross-legged. Say a 90-90 position is not good for you. You can continue to sit in this position and the hips will relax. But in sitting on the floor, if I'm sitting like so, my right leg is at a 90-degree angle and my left leg is also at a 90-degree angle. So I'm here and I'm basically trying to adjust the back hip. So the left hip is being rotated in and the right hip is actually rotating out. So in sitting on the floor, I find my left hip doesn't rotate in as well. So this is a really, really great position for me. Some people don't necessarily feel this, so they kind of give up on it, where it's like they don't see the benefit in it. But the hips really need to rotate in, and you'll see with people, if you observe people walking, a lot of times people, their feet turn out. So there's a combination that the outside of the hip is really tight, but the inner thigh is very weak, and that stops the thigh from rotating in. So when I'm sitting like this, I may need to elevate the back knee because the back knee might have too much weight in the medial side of the knee. So you could put something underneath the knee. Now I'm bringing weight into my right hand, and I'm gonna try to elevate the right leg up off the floor. So I could use my left hand to lift it up, right? But I'm trying to use more of the strength in my hip to elevate it. So I'm bringing it up. But all this time, I'm really trying to keep it up from the strength of my hip, not so much my hand. Right? I'm gonna bring it down, and then one more time, I'm gonna take it up. But again, I'm trying to increase the range of motion, again, not by the hand, but by the strength of the hip. And then I'm gonna bring it down, and then when I bring it down, have the hands down if you're new to this, but keep your back erect. And then as you keep your body erect, you're gonna come forward. So you don't have to come forward all the way. So I want to keep my body as upright as I can. And then this is going to add more leverage into the outside of the hip. You could be going towards the foot or going straight forward towards the shin. Those are two really good angles to find. I'm going to bring myself up one more time. Yeah, you can have this. And then I'm going to come forward again. And then as I come forward, remember when you were lifting your leg to your face or trying to lift it up off the floor? It's really the same thing. So I'm trying to lift it up, deep breathing. You know, if something was really, really tight, the breath, if you haven't realized, is very helpful in getting you to be more comfortable and to go further in your poses. So bring yourself back up, and then when you come up, take the knees up, and as you take the knees up, you're gonna carry the knees over to the left side. And with the knees to the left, again, my right hip is what I'm rotating in. So the left leg is at 90 and the right leg is at 90. It doesn't have to be like I'm adjusting Noah here so that his leg is at 90. It doesn't have to be like that completely, but it adds more leverage into the capsule of the hip. So when I'm here, I'm trying to get more weight into my right hip. It's very easy to kind of lean here, which is something that you might need to do initially, but over time you're trying to get more weight into the pelvis. So I'm gonna bring weight into the left hand, and I'm gonna lift my left leg up off the floor. So when I come, for you, you might have to hold the foot and then to pull the leg up and in. So again, I'm not using my hand as much as the strength isn't being developed from the arm. You want to be strengthening the outside of the hip and the interior of the hip. I'm going to bring it down. I'm going to take it up again. So again, all this time I'm trying to take the leg up, not so much from the use of my arm. Then I'm going to bring it down, and then when I come down, just test it out and coming forward. So keep your back straight, and then when you keep your back straight, you're forward, and this will take the pressure off your back and load up the hip. So if I'm coming forward with the block, then there's extra weight in the hip, and that's I like this because it really engages me to use more of the strength in the hip and to adjust the hip. When my hands are down, it's good. It's just not as much leverage, and I like the leverage in the hips, so that's why my hands are up off the floor. So then bring yourself back up, and then when you come back up, you can put the block off to the side if you're using the block, and then have the legs forward where the knees are bent and the hands are just underneath the shoulders, and then push through the hands, push through the feet, lift through the hips, and get the shoulders to rotate out. So as you rotate the shoulders out, you can get a better lift in the pelvis, right? Take a couple deep breaths here, and then bring your hips down. And then when you bring your hips down, now if you have, again, the wall behind you or a piece of furniture, doesn't have to be a wall, I'm gonna sit cross-legged, and then in sitting cross-legged, I'm gonna carry out to the right, and then when I'm out to the right, I'm gonna lean up against the wall, right? So what the most important thing is that your hips are back. So if your hips are forward and your body's back, you're really slouching. But when the pelvis is back and you're leaning up against the wall, you're gonna get the leverage that you need in the torso, right? And then bring yourself back up, and then recross the legs. And then as you recross the legs, you're gonna carry out to the left side. So move your butt back, buddy. There you go. And then slide to the left. And then lean up against the wall with your upper body. And it's still kind of early for you, so maybe you're not going back, and I say this all the time for people when I'm working with them privately, is you may not want to use all of your effort initially. So if I was here for a couple of minutes, for you, what I suggest is moving back in space for 3 to 5 seconds, and then maybe not doing that so much, because that can be a lot and can be frustrating. So you want to be able to hold things longer, but obviously not hurt yourself. And then bring yourself back up, and then when you come up, bring the feet together, and with the feet together, the knees are wide. I'm going to push my hands into my thighs and lift my thighs up into my hands. So when I'm squeezing in, I'm just blocking the action in the legs, and that's what's helping to adjust the hips, the pelvis. So take 3 deep breaths, breathing in, breathing out. That's good. And if you really like this, you could put something into the back. It doesn't have to be a lot. Like I'm just putting my hand here for Noah, and then when he leans back with his upper body, it's giving him more of a lift through the lumbar. But again, a piece of furniture is probably better than the wall for something like this, right? So come back into the position where your legs are bent and your hands are underneath your shoulders. So tabletop, push through the hands, rotate through the shoulders, and lift the hips up off the floor. So get the thighs, or get the hips to the level of the thighs if you can. Try to lift it through the lower back. You can move the head back in space, and then bring the head forward and bring the hips down. And we're gonna come into an all 4 position. So come onto your hands and your knees. So once you're on your hands and your knees, you're gonna push through the hands, you're gonna round the spine into a cat stretch. Look forward, look up, you can back bend. You can exhale, you can round the spine, round your back. We'll back bend, we'll lift the chin, we'll lift the chest. And we'll exhale, we'll round the spine. So connect into the floor and reach the legs back, reach the feet back, and come up into a plank pose. So grip the floor, pack the shoulders, connect into the abdomen. See where the weight sits in the hands. Try to move it around if you don't necessarily know if you're not balanced. And then take it back up into a down dog. And then in a down dog, pull the hips way, way back in space. Bend the knees if you need to. Get the hips to carry back. Think I'm pulling the arms forward. Right, come back into a plank again. Reach back to the heels. Couple deep breaths. Carry it back up into a down dog. And then walk the feet forward to the middle of your mat and walk your hands back towards your feet. You're in a standing forward fold. Roll yourself up to standing. Roll yourself up. And then as you roll up, just take a couple breaths. See where the weight sits in the feet. And then once you've relaxed enough to be in a standing position where you're not dizzy, is you're going to turn so that your back is up against the wall. So my feet aren't necessarily up against the wall, but my hips are. And I'm trying to move my head back in space. So it's very easy to just kind of lift the chest. So think the center of your back is moving into the wall. So your abdomen is engaged. And again, if it's really uncomfortable, your feet might be too close to the wall. It's common. We're trying to keep your body from being habitually offline. So I'm going to take my feet out in a wide space, and with the feet out wide, I'm going to turn the left foot in and the right foot out. I'm going to take the arms out. I'm going to sit into my pose and think of lifting the legs up and out. And that's partially why I did that, where, you know, on the floor in the 90-90 position, is that you're using your legs in all these positions. You're really in lateral positions. You're strengthening the hips. I'm going to bring the right forearm on the right thigh, and I'm going to continue to lean up against the wall. So again, I'm not always forcing myself back, especially if you don't have you know, the flexibility to do that, right? Take the left arm up to the ceiling, turn to the palm, and you can take it forward. Now the wall is a great reference. You can touch the wall. Not that it's better, but you'll find that there's more of a stretch. For those of you that would be on a corner of a wall, you can actually go further than I am, because the wall's really stopping me from going further. Both are good. You know, it's just a matter if you needed that or not. Bring yourself back up into a warrior two, and continue to lift yourself up and away from your pelvis. So drop through the tail, lift through the pubic bone. Get the abdomen to support you more when you're standing, walking. Bring yourself up, turn the right foot in, turn the left foot to the left. Take the arms wide, and then bend the left knee. And then as you bend the left knee, you can again lift up through the thighs to get more space into the lower back. As you're here, you know, you can pull the belly in, the ribs in, expanding through the chest and the shoulders. And then bring the left forearm on the left thigh, have the right hand on the hip if that's the best thing. And then take the right arm up to the ceiling. And then for some people that I work with, it's really hard for them to move their arms in space. So maybe you're moving the arm the whole time, right? Take the right arm overhead if you can, reach for the wall, get the weight into the left heel. That'll take the pressure off the front of the knee if you can't get it to 90 yet. Then bring yourself back up into a warrior two. Push the thighs apart. Broaden the chest, broaden the shoulders. And then bring yourself back up. Turn the left foot in. And then bring the feet back into a neutral position. So just standing upright. Take 2 deep breaths. When you're up against the wall, see what's not touching the wall and try to find the wall with what's not touching. And then you'll start to organize yourself a bit better. So we're going to use the wall for a twist. So turn to the right. take your right leg up off the floor. Turn your upper body to the wall. Hands could be as wide as the shoulders. They could be wider. You could be completely up against the wall as well. So find out what's best for yourself. So drive through the left foot, twist to the right, elevate through the upper body. Take 3 deep breaths. It's a lot like using the floor in terms of a supine twist. And then turn forward, and you can bring the right leg down. You're going to turn over to the other side. So I'm supporting myself with my right foot. I'm taking my left foot up off the floor. Hands can turn to the wall. Upper body can turn to the wall. Bring the arms out wider if you can. Continue to use your right foot and lift through the top of the head. So the wall is, again, a way of manipulating you, but you also want to do it from a point of integration. So strengthen the abdomen. Twist yourself out as you exhale. And then you can turn forward and you can bring the left leg down. So turn back where your back is up against the wall and bring your feet slightly more forward than the knees. So this is a basic wall sit. So have the elbows to the wall, have the hands at the height of the elbows, bend the knees. It doesn't have to be a 90-degree angle. I would sit in an angle. If you're struggling today, the easiest angle. If you're feeling pretty good today, find an angle that you're weak in and work on that. And then as you're back up against the wall, try to get the shoulders to move back. As you're in this, you'll see that maybe you're favoring one leg. So if we held this for a good chunk of time, a minute, 2 minutes, you could certainly move it around, right? But as you practice, maybe you can start to pick up on which leg is weaker, and that's the leg that you want to use more. So shoulders are back. You're going to be here for another 4 breaths, and it's probably about a 45-second hold. You're pushing down through the heels. Right? As you're in this, you can look at the feet, look at the knees. Maybe these are some things that you need to organize better. Some people have very fallen arches, the knees fall in. You want to push the knees out if that's happening. Then slide yourself back up. Bring yourself back up against the wall. Take a couple deep breaths. Again, if you're an anterior tilt person, tailbone is down. If you're a posterior tilt person, your pubic bone's moving down towards the floor, right, to help compensate the lower back. So we do a triangle up against the wall. Take the legs wide. Turn the right foot out to the right, the left foot's in at 45. You could adjust the block, right, if you're a person that uses a block. Take the arms wide, reach to the right, grab the right shin or the foot. Maybe it's up very high for you. The front leg could always be bent. As you're taking the arm up, you might not necessarily be all the way up against the wall. So if you're struggling to breathe, come higher up on the leg, right? Give yourself some time. Actually find it a bigger manipulation in the hip when I'm higher. When I'm lower, I still feel that manipulation, but it's not as, it's just a different sensation, but it's similar. I feel it more up into the spine, more in the hip. So take a couple deep breaths here. Again, if it's difficult, find an angle that you can breathe in. Then over time, you can certainly go further. And then bring yourself back up, and then when you come up, turn the right foot in, turn the left foot out. Take the arms wide. Take a deep breath here. Reach out to the left as you exhale. You can hold the shin or the foot. The right arm is up. You're turning to the right, and again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you'll notice that your posture is probably as good as it could ever be in terms of using the wall or using the floor in positions like this, because you're more upright. Now, as I'm pushing through the feet, I'm going to turn through the belly, turn through the chest. I'm extending the head away from my back foot. And like we did on the other side, explore being higher, right? Understand that that could be beneficial for you. And then say you're like, no, this is way better being lower. Then of course you can be low. You know, you can hold the big toe, and if I'm holding the big toe like the Ashtanga approach, I'm pushing the foot into the hand, and then I'm turning my upper body away from that pressure. In addition, a very good way to adjust the body. And then inhale, bring yourself back up, and then when you come back up, you can turn the left foot in, and you can just step the feet back together, just a neutral position. So take a deep breath, exhale it out, and what we do is take the legs out in a wide position and use the wall. So you could be facing the wall and doing this, but I'm taking the legs out, and so I'm not going to hold it incredibly long, but I'm going to hold it long enough where if you want more leverage, don't use the wall. But I'm using the wall for some of you that might need it for balance. But it's for people, it's difficult to do half moon. And a big reason it's difficult to do half moon is because of the inflexibility of the legs, taking the legs out. It's like impossible for someone to do. So this could be your half moon, like the beginning of doing half moon, right? Take a couple deep breaths, get yourself upright. If again you want more stress in the hips, you know, you go away from the wall. So bring the feet back in a little bit, and then what you're gonna do is just step the feet back together. So just bringing them in, standing upright. Again, continue to connect into the floor. And then go back into a wall sit. So bring the feet forward, and with the feet forward, the arms are back. And just a variation, and you don't have to do it right, of course, but a good way to develop the feet is lifting the heels up and then lowering down. So if you struggle going up and down stairs, it's a very basic thing to start with to support the legs and getting stronger. I've said this before, you do something slow, you may not need as such of a high repetition. But if I was going relatively quick, I'll do this 20, 30 times, right? But again, maybe your 30 repetitions is you're starting with 5 or 10. So lower the heels, push through the heels, lean back up against the wall, right? And then bring yourself back up. So when you come back up, before we do that half moon, we're going to stretch out your quadriceps. So use the wall, turn to your right, take the left leg up. Now it could be on a piece of furniture. If you can reach for the foot, fantastic. If you want more of a stretch through the front of your leg, be holding the leg with both hands. So so you can see all of me, I'm not using both hands. You can bring the left foot down, turn to the opposite direction, and take the right leg up. So I've mentioned this before. Reason people will have a difficult time standing upright or sitting upright is the front of the body is overly tight. The tissues are too tight, and some of it is weakness, but exposing the quad, the hip flexor, the psoas greatly helps you in having better posture. So bring the right foot down, and then with the right foot down, we're going to move the blocks to the side just in case you need them. So if you've never done a half moon, have the block on the highest level. And then with it being at the highest level, then it's much easier. But if you had a piece of furniture, serves just as well, might actually be better because that might be a better height for you. So reach out to the right. You can grab the right shin, take the left arm up to the ceiling. So explore a triangle, being triangle, right? Push through the feet, turn to the upper body. Now you could stay here, of course. You could bend the right knee, you could come forward into the block. So if it's hard for you to come up, which it was for me, I just want you to be able to see me, is that it's hard to come up. So depending on how big your butt is, you want to be away from the wall with the foot so that you can come up. Now I'm up on the block, I'm getting more space through my upper body. Now bring the left leg down, especially if you're getting tired. right? Or you're like, oh, I can't take it up higher. It could be certainly low like I have it, and then as it gets easier, then you can express it up higher. Right? Take a couple deep breaths here. You want to get lower. Again, there's value in getting lower because there's a different point of leverage. Adjust the body differently. So bring yourself back up into a warrior two. Couple deep breaths. Push the thighs apart. Lift up through the upper body. Bring yourself up. Turn the right foot in and then turn the left foot out. Take the arms out wide. Take a couple deep breaths here. And then on an exhale, reach to the left. Grab the left shin. Take the right arm up to the ceiling. You're turning your upper body towards your right hand. And maybe triangle is a better pose than a half moon. But a half moon, in my opinion, is really great because the outside of the hip gets weak, and you obviously want to keep that strong in terms of structure, stability. So I'm going to come forward into my left hand into the block, and then when I come forward, I'm going to take my right arm up to the ceiling. So I'm going to push through the left foot, and as I'm pushing through the left foot, I'm going to turn through the upper body so that I'm getting the space. So I have a second wall that I'm using, and that's helping me to turn the body to the right. So hand could be in a number of places. Again, explore being lower, right? And again, it's not to say that lower is better, but something that you can most certainly develop. And then bring the leg down a little lower, especially if you're struggling, and then take it back up. So when you take it up, foot could be flexed or pointed, and then you could bring yourself back up. And when you come back up, you're in warrior two. So push the thighs apart, elevate through the chest, broaden the thighs out, and lean up against the wall. Bring yourself back up, and then turn the left foot in. Just step the feet back together, just a neutral stance. Again, see how the weight sits in the feet. Take a deep breath in, exhale it out. We're gonna go back to stretching the legs out one more time. So take the legs out into a wide position. So the legs out wide. You can push the thighs apart. So I'm lifting the legs up and out. And then this will give you more ability in sitting lower. And you maybe not as low as you'd like to be, but it's a matter of practicing. So something like this is very good to do if you're not slipping. You don't want to slip. Use a chair out in front of you if you need it. I'm going to come forward into a forward fold, and then as I come forward, it's just a different set of leverage, right? And then when the hands are down, continue to lift the legs up and out, or squeeze the legs together. So you can squeeze the legs in. Now I could get lower if I wanted to. But I'm going to bring the feet in closer, and we're going to do a little bit of a twist. So with the feet in closer, take the hands over to the right side. Be away from the wall, and then grab the right ankle with the left hand. Take the right arm up to the ceiling. If I'm up against the wall, it's good too. But try to get the reason I'm saying go away from the wall so that you can use your feet. So generate the effort in your feet and your legs, and then turn your upper body to the right. Right hand could be in a fist. Bring the right hand down, walk the hands over to the left leg, and then grab the left ankle with the right hand. Take the left arm up to the ceiling. So you're turning your upper body to the left. Broad shoulders, broad upper back. Push through the feet. Bring the left hand down, and then take the legs out a little bit wider if you can. So a bit of a series, the legs are wide. If you want to get lower with the elbows, you can get lower. Lower isn't necessarily better. So if I'm getting more and more flexible, if I'm you, I want to hold these positions, not just hold them from my hands. That makes sense. Bring your hands down, bring your feet in a little bit closer. My mat's great, but it does slip a little bit, so I don't always practice these wide angle positions so extreme. Bring yourself all the way up, and then bring the feet back in. This is in a standing position. And then in a standing position, you could do a tree. Now my right knee is going to be at the wall, and my right foot's going to be on the inside of my thigh. So I'm going to press through the left foot, and then be, upright. So it's a tree pose, but you're pushing the knee into the wall. If that's too much pressure, right? Put something between the knee and the wall, just so that it doesn't irritate the patella. You can take the arms up overhead. You might not be able to see my head or my arm, but you get the idea that you're pushing through the left foot, you're extending the arms up. You can bring the arms down, you can bring the knee forward, you can bring the foot down, and then you're going to turn the upper body the opposite direction. So if I can't take the foot up, I'm too close to the wall. If I'm not touching the wall, I'm too far away from the wall. The foot is on the inside of the thigh. You're pushing evenly through the right foot. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, take the arms up. And just see where the weight sits in the foot. It'll tell you how you sit in space habitually. So pushing strong through the right foot, extend up through the arms. Take a couple deep breaths here. And then take the arms down, and you're gonna bring the left knee forward and the left foot down. So take the legs out wide again. We're gonna do one more warrior type triangle type of series. So if you need the blocks, we're gonna do half moon again. You want the blocks there, put the blocks on the outsides of your mat. So turn your right foot out, take your back foot in, take the arms out wide, bend the right knee. As you bend the right knee, again, lift the thighs apart. I say this all the time. As your posture improves, you're gonna notice your stance getting longer. So you're gonna get more space. And a long stance, really long stance is good to explore because now you got the wall. So have the right leg straight, reach to the right, grab the right shin or the foot, lean up against the wall, drop through the tail, lift through the pubic bone. Again, maybe you're not always up against the wall as much as I'm expressing. Take the left arm up to the ceiling, come forward into your right hand, your right foot. So if you have a hard time coming up, like I just needed to move a little bit further away from the wall, move the foot out, take the left arm up. Hand could be up off the foot, because you got the wall, right? So there's not as much need for support with the hand, because you got the wall, right? So you can turn through, and these are nice because you can really hold them longer. Bring yourself back up, turn the right foot in, turn the left foot out, take the arms wide, bend the left knee. It's like if I, again, really don't necessarily know how to adjust myself, that's why I'm using the wall.The. Right? Lift the thighs up and out, have the left leg straight, take a deep breath here, exhale, carry out to the left, take the right arm up, and again, maybe triangle is more of your pose, or side angle as opposed to half moon. Half moon's a really popular in modern yoga. Again, that's why I'm using the wall, one of the main reasons. Come forward into the left foot, and when you come forward, I could take the right arm up. Again, if you can't come into the pose, most likely the foot's too close to the wall. So it's not as critical to have the right position of the foot for like triangle, but it's very critical in terms of balance with the wall for half moon. You could take the arm up higher on the leg. You could bring it lower. Right? Turn the upper body towards the right hand. Take a deep breath in. Exhale it out. Bend the left knee. Bring yourself back up. Coming all the way up. And then step the feet back together just into a neutral stance. Deep breath in. Exhale it out. Right, and then come to the top of the mat. We're just going to do a little bit of some movement just to see, and if you can see the benefits. Take the arms up overhead and then fold forward into a forward fold. Step the left foot back into a lunge. And with the left foot back, I'm just kind of in this position. I'm lunging, I'm moving the weight around. Take the right arm up to the ceiling. And if you wanted to use the wall, right, The wall's there if you're a person that's using the wall. Push strong through the right foot. Bring the right hand down. And then what you do is walk over to the middle and then carry over to the left. So just a different transition. Take the left arm up to the ceiling. The left arm is high, the right hand is low. Think I'm pulling your hips towards your back foot. Bring your left hand down, walk your hands to the middle, take it over, take the right arm up to the ceiling. So the right arm is high, the left hand is low. Take one more breath here. Bring the right hand down, walk the hands to the middle, carry it to the left again. Take the left arm up to the ceiling. So these positions you're squeezing in as opposed to pushing out. Take a deep breath in. Exhale it out. Bring the left hand in. Walk the hands back into the middle. I take a couple deep breaths here. And then what we'll do is come down onto your knees. And when you come down on your knees, you can sit on a block. So sit, high, low. Sit in between your feet for Virasana. And then in Virasana, right, squeeze into the block or squeeze into the hips, really struggling on the knees. Have the knees, knees could be super wide. They don't have to be in close. Just the closer they're in, the more emphasis will be on the quads and into the hips. I say this often, as you sit in it, explore getting lower, especially if you need more leverage in adjusting the tissues. So if I'm lower, not that this is better, but as you say, there's a real interest of yours to do more back bending, like camel and wheel, and this will help. Those are very difficult poses for most people. So as this anterior chain gets softer, more pliable, it's easier to sit lower. So if you want to try to sit lower in between the feet, you could do that. Some previous classes, you can go back and look at my YouTube channel. You can see how I adjust the calf muscles and the knees and giving you a fuller knee flexion. As you're pushing down through the shins, continue to lift up through the upper body, create space. Take the arms into a cactus position. Just move the hands forward, right, and down. Bring the arms back up. Bring them forward and down. Broad shoulders, broad upper back. Take the arms back to cactus, and then you can bring the arms down. So come off the feet, come off the legs. Take the legs forward. And with the legs forward, you can circle. My legs are straight. I'm just going to circle the feet out. Circle back in. Circle back out. And then circle back in. Okay. Point the feet, straight forward, and then flex the feet. And then bend the knees, have the hands underneath the shoulders like we did earlier in class. Push through the feet, lift through the hips, broad shoulders, broad upper back. You could take the head back if you wanted to. And then bring the head forward and bring the hips down. And then with the hips down, come into a seated position. So cross the ankles, cross the shins. And with the legs crossed, take the left hand to the left, reach the right hand to the right. Again, if you're using the wall or a piece of furniture, have your butt all the way back, and then eventually the middle of your upper body, right? And then the head. I do this often of taking the hand behind the head. You could do that here, but with the wall serves kind of like the hand. It's just a matter of preference. You could turn the upper body to the right. I could take my right arm out to the right. I can let my head hang down, right? With the wall, you might see that it's a little bit easier to go a bit further. Bring yourself back up. When you come up, slide the right hand to the right side, reach the left hand to the left, lean back up against the wall. Again, if you prefer the hand behind the head, take the hand behind the head. But if your hips are really back, then the head can't move as far back, and that's why I like a corner of a support. Then I can go a little bit further, which is extension. It's what we're doing in back bends. Again, the hand could be off to the side. A couple deep breaths here. Right. And then bring yourself back up. And then when you come back up, have the soles of your feet together. And with the soles of your feet together, push your butt back again. It's gonna wanna move forward, but you wanna keep it back. Have the hands on the insides of the thighs and push into the thighs and then resist the pressure of your hands. So, you don't necessarily, you could use an external weight, like get creative with putting weights on your thighs and resisting that. It's the same thing, but with your hands, I'm pushing down probably about 5, maybe 10 pounds of pressure. And with a lighter weight, the good thing is you can relax a little bit more. You don't need a crushing weight, especially if your knees are quite high, right? But squeeze in from time to time, but then also push out, push your legs apart. So there's times that you're lifting your legs into your hands, and there's times that think that you don't want your legs to touch your hands. If that makes sense. And then go back to just having the hands down and pushing the legs apart. And this is what I was talking about, pushing the legs apart for yourself. And then lift the legs back up. So have the block. Again, if we're gonna do the 90-90 stretch, so if you like using the block, again, use the block. So take the feet, wider than the shoulders, take the knees over to the right. And with the knees to the right, use the hands just to test it, just to come forward, keep your back straight. All right, and then say you want to continue to use the hands, you could do that. So coming forward and down, right, the beauty is that moment there's more leverage, and then when you come up, it can relax as well. So I love holding things long, a few minutes on end. Has its place, but I also like the engagement of coming forward where you're contracting, and then when you're up, you're relaxing, and you're kind of getting the best of both worlds, because the left hip for some people is really, the internal rotation is really deficient. You can come forward, right? You can bring yourself up. I'm gonna bring the block down. If I don't want to use my hands, I can do it that way, right? As I'm moving the legs to the left, have the hands down initially just to test it out. So my foot's flexed, wrinkle-free in terms of the foot. So like if the foot's sickling, right, then it can affect the knee. It can be more about the ankle than the actual action of the hip. So come forward if you came up. And if you're down, come up again. Again, if you want to try it with the block, squeezing into the block, I'm bringing myself forward, I'm bringing myself down. A couple deep breaths here. Then I'm bringing myself up. I'm bringing myself forward. Take a couple deep breaths. So still, I'm trying to lift the leg to the upper body. Not a lot, but I'm using some effort here, and that should target more of a stretch through the post-capsule of the hip. Bring yourself up one more time. Again, stay upright if that's where you need more of the leverage. Come forward, keep your back straight. Couple deep breaths, and then bring yourself back up. So have the legs again into a tabletop position just to keep your legs warm. Push through the hands, lift the hips up off the floor. The more you develop your hips, the easier it is to lift them. An extension. Rotate the shoulders out. Take the head back if you want it. Measure the head to the ceiling. Bring your head forward, bring your hips down. And then what you'll do is either you're going to repeat badha konasana up at the wall. That's cobbler's pose, feet together. But let's say you're interested in doing ankle to knee. So ankle to knee is The easiest way of doing it is see how my left leg is into my pelvis, and then my right leg can come on top. This is by far much easier than being even. So if my legs are even, that's great. So what I'm talking about is even is that my legs are more stacked. They're more organized. So if you can have your legs like I have them, great. What I would avoid is this. The ankle can take it, but the knee can't. And that's why I highly recommend having the leg out. It's going to be a lot more uncomfortable in the hip, but it'll save your knee. Now, if I want more leverage in the hip, I'm going to bring the hand in the thigh and I'm going to resist that. So as I'm pushing into the leg, I'm moving my leg away from my pelvis. So the femur is moving away. Some people need a slight rotation. So I'm actually rotating the thigh out a little bit. You could use both of your hands. So if you're really struggling in the hip, try to use both hands and rotate the leg out. And I know some of you need to come out, go back into it. You know, it gets easier, less frustrating. Undo the legs and then bring the right leg on the bottom and then bring the left leg on top. So start out if you can at 99 and you're 90-degree angle with both legs. It's just a different angle. It's kind of 45, right? But if you can, try to stack the left shin over the right. And if it's really, really difficult, know that you can slide the bottom leg in. And then by sliding it in, it's a lot easier. And I like this position, not that I like it more than pigeon, but you can regulate how much pressure you have in your hip. When you're in pigeon, if you're not really knowing how to use action, it can be overbearing, and you can have some problems with your labrum. You don't want to tear your labrum. So I'm pushing into my left thigh and I'm resisting that. And for me, it's like it's such a different, it's like completely different experience. So the interior of my hip on my left side is tighter, and the posterior of my right hip is tighter. So that's why the benefit of asymmetrical poses, you can really see like why you may want to do one pose more on one side than the other. I'm leaning up against the wall. Again, I'm pushing into the thigh and I'm resisting that. And at all this time, I'm getting great an adjustment from the wall. Right? And then I'm going to take that leg off. And then as you take the leg off, just be again into a tabletop position. Push the hands to the floor. Lift the hips up off the floor. As you lift the hips up, I'm going to do a little bit of a motion. I'm going to bring the hips forward towards the feet, just to stretch out the front of the shoulders. I'm going to bring it back, bring it forward. Again, you want the rotation in the shoulder. If you don't have the rotation in the shoulder, it's going to be really heavy on the elbow and not a good sensation. Bring yourself back into a tabletop position. Take the head back, elevate the hips, elevate the chest. And then bring the head forward, bring the hips down, and just pull the left leg back in space. Try to get the armpit and the knee together. Push the foot forward into the hands. Some of you don't have a strap. This is why I'm doing that. So you could stretch it forward, stretch it up. So after I do hip opening positions, I really like to straighten the legs out for people so that there's not because there can be some negativity in the knees. Or negative sensations, right? You can bring the left leg down, you can take the right leg back. You can try to get the armpit and the knee together. And again, just see which side is more difficult to get the knee back. It's the hip, it's the hamstring, it's does your body slouch more on one side? You can take it up, right? And you can bring it down. Now, if you do have a strap, make it into a loop. And then when it's in a loop, I'm gonna take it around my body. And then when I take it around my body, I'm going to take I'm just gonna have it just underneath my shoulder blades and then the leg forward. So this is a little long for me. I like it a little more short, and I like the pressure. But if you're just starting out with this, it can be long. Again, I like the adjustment of the legs and of the back. So it doesn't have to be incredibly short, but that's better for me. And then I like it again just down below the shoulder blades, and then I can push the legs. I can push it forward. I can elevate the chest. Take a couple deep breaths here. You could lift the chin. You could lift the chest. You might be better on your back doing poses like this, or you just might prefer it. You could bring it down. You could take the strap over the left foot and take the left leg forward. As you take it forward, you can push the foot forward. You can lean back. Eventually it's Navasana, right? We'll do a little bit of that. But lean back into the strap. You can pull with the hands from time to time. Hands could be down. If you want to take both feet up into the strap. If the strap is too short, it's really hard on the feet. So when it's really heavy in the feet, you might want to just opt for the single leg variation. So lift away from your hands. You want to do it without your hands. You take your hands off the floor. So keep lifting your chest up away from the strap, and then bend the knees, and then bring the legs down. And then what we're going to do is have the strap off to the side if you're not going to be using it again. So have the legs like so, and then just have the hands beside you. Try to lift the right leg up off the floor, pull it up, bring the left leg up. These single leg raises are much easier, so I like these to start with. Bring it down, bring it up, bring it down, and then just between these is blocks are really good in getting your, I'm big on stabilizing the shoulder. So with the blocks, you can lift yourself up to a straight arm position. So straight arm positions are much easier than bent arm positions, but they go hand in hand. But this is the beginning of some arm balances, an L sit. If I lifted both my legs off the floor, that's a good base hand balance position. And then you can bring the hips down. And then when you bring the hips down, I'm going to take the hands beside my knees. I'm going to try to lift the legs up. So this is more difficult than, say, Navasana. So if it's really difficult for you, Navasana is more here, right? Keep working with this, but don't strain your lower back, right? The closer I get into my legs, the more compression I'm creating. Bring the legs down. Have the knees bent. Have the hands beside you. Lift the hips up off the floor. Broad shoulders, broad upper back. Take the head back in space, and then bring the head forward, the hips down, and then just sit in an easy position, or legs are apart. I'm going to take my left foot outside my right hip, step the right foot over the left knee. Now I've done this before in classes, so something I really like. So before I do Ardha Chandrasana, I'm going to take my left arm across, and I'm going to get really low, not incredibly low, just low enough where I feel a much more obvious stretch in the hips. So I put the block here because you might need the block for your head. You could rest your head on your knee. So it really depends, again, on your anatomy. But you'll feel like more outside of the hip. So if you're a bigger fan of triangles, side angles, half moons, you have a dance background, all this area in the hip becomes very strong, right? But it can get also really tight. So this is a good counter for all that type of work. You could lift the head, you could lift the chest. Because I'm near a wall, I can push into the wall, that I could turn. The wall is such a great way to practice. It'll make you better. I find it so helpful. The right hand behind you could be up on a block, and then turn forward and then release the arm and the leg. Bring the right foot outside the left hip. Step the left foot over the right knee. Take the right arm around the left leg. Take the left hand behind you. Elevate the chest, broad shoulders, broad upper back. Get yourself into an upright position. And then you might want to be low like I did it earlier. So just a little bit of a different order. My shoulder is down, and then it's the outside of my hip. And as you're here, you could squeeze in. And this is, again, very similar to pigeon, but I find this a much more user-friendly way of doing it. That's why I like this. And then, I haven't done pigeon yet in any of these classes. At some point, I'll definitely teach pigeon because it is a very useful technique. And then bring yourself up. And then if you do come up, you can connect the armpit and the knee together. Now, if my back is up against the wall, it's just a different approach, but very similar to when we were doing triangles, right? So I could sit on the foot, I could sit on a blanket. I'm revolving away from my front leg. I'm trying to lift myself up. Again, breathing's the biggest part. Not so much about, alignment is obviously important, but your breathing is that's really, I think the priority of the pose. And then you could turn forward and you could release the arm and the leg. So just sit in a cross-legged position, sit upright. You have to be somewhere. This is a better position than, say, being on your back. If you're a person that's ready to rest, go on your back, be in a supported bridge, fish. These are all great positions. Again, I love all the support, so thank you so much for tuning in, and I really want to make the classes as beneficial as I can, so let me know how they're going. Send me questions. You could send me videos. I could always observe things to help you, no matter what the pose is. Again, the classes are for you, and that's why I'm putting them out as frequently as I am. So if you're on your back, let everything relax. Relax your hands, relax your feet, relax your face. It's great to have the time that we have so that you can really center your body and your mind. You have more time, I'm guessing, in terms of practice. So me personally, I'm utilizing the time to get more into my own personal practice, which reminds me of my time in Asia. So let your body sink into the floor, and as it does, you might be like, this is the best thing ever, and that's ultimately what we want to have in relaxation. But if you're a person that needs to go somewhere, you can bring yourself up. You can, roll to one side and then bring yourself up. So we had, a great time today. I hope you enjoyed the class. Let me know how it's going. Have a beautiful day. Hope to see you on Friday at 8. If not, I'll see you over the weekend in my classes. Take care. Namaste.